U.S. Women's Soccer Champs. That and more at SportsBar. Hello, everybody. I'm David Jackson. Welcome to Sports Bar. This week, we have two hosts at the bar, me and my co-barkeep, Mr. Sam Smith.
David, it's nice to be with you, the voice of the Mountaineers. And I know we're going to talk about some football a little later in the program. And I think we've got some football of sorts to get kicked off with. And the whole United States of America, I think, is kind of glowing today after that soccer victory last night.
At least that side of the desk is.
Okay, thank you very much.
So some selective memory issues that we'll talk about a little bit later on. We'll introduce our sports fanatics. Here are Ashton Schlachter, Chris Warner, and Travis Stanley. And Ashton, how you doing?
Uh-oh.
So
Good.
soccer is something you're somewhat familiar with, right? Because
Just
I
a little
believe
bit.
if we were to rewind things, last week on the show you predicted things to be a little rough for the U.S. team.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
I mean, I'm proud of them, but I stand by what I said in the last game, that if they played the same way they did against Germany, that they weren't going to win. And luckily, they did not play that way.
Ashton is being deported after today.
Yeah, I'm heading on out.
Yeah, but dominating performance, I think. 4 goals in 16 minutes is way more than anybody could have ever anticipated. But it looked like a U.S. team that was ready to put any and all doubt away right out of the gate.
Oh, yeah. Well, plus you got Carly Lloyd out there, who I don't think anyone was expecting to come out and do what she did. I mean, a hat trick within, I think, 15 or 16 minutes. She put 3 away. That's incredible.
By the way, that was the first hat trick in the history of the World Cup for women, by the way.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't even know that.
So that was quite a feat.
Yeah. No, she definitely played in a way that I think people knew she could, but weren't necessarily expecting. I think that she definitely kind of came out and put doubts to bed, at least mine, that we were going to see something a lot different from them.
You were really dreading this, weren't you?
A little bit, yeah.
One of the things that's been discussed a lot over the course of the last few hours has been Abby Wambach and her ability to change her role drastically within this World Cup. You look at only 5 minutes in the first challenge round game. She got the kind of the graceful come on the field and end it all, kind of wrap the bow around a storied career. But you need a teammate like that to be successful in the international stage, and she seemed to be the one to be able to prove that.
Well, I feel like with Abby Wambach kind of taking that step back, it allowed people like Carly Lloyd to really step into that attacking midfielder role. Because before, when Wambach would be on the field, as great as she is, it was oftentimes all too predictable, because Wambach is just such a presence, so every cross is going to her, every ball, we're trying to find Abby. So with her being off the field, it allowed, Carly to step up, be that, that kind of that point forward, to making a basketball reference, but her being able to step up, be an attacker, and really be where she thrives in the top of that diamond.
Oh, yeah. Only definitely wouldn't have seen a half-field goal, I think, with Wambach on. So.
I thought a great moment also was when Lloyd came in and Wambach came at the end, and she exchanged the captain's armband, which I thought showed a lot of class, showing, hey, this is such a great player. Thank you for doing what you've done for the United States of America. I thought that was a little touch of class, and of course, Lloyd, the MVP of the whole series. And but I thought that was a nice finish to this whole thing with the World Cup. I was with a couple last night, and we're not necessarily soccer fanatics, but we were glued. And I think America, I think, David, I think you'd have to agree that when people start getting the red, white, and blue here in the United States, people start to get a little bit more fanatic about, hey, let's watch them, particularly. Unfortunately, you're on the road, and it's 4-1 when you finally get the score.
I know. I checked Twitter, and I was like, no, this can't be real. Of course I'm missing the beginning of this game. So never take a road trip when you know a big game's going on. It's not a good idea.
Well, and the discussion points were so different than I think people expected. With the way that the U.S. team played prior to, you're looking at a team that struggled offensively early in the tournament, certainly had advantages in the Germany game they didn't take a full advantage of, and utilized a PK to kind of put some distance in that wasn't necessarily indicative of how that game was played. But then here's a team that was largely built on its defensive ability and may be the best defensive World Cup team the women have ever had in the sport. And then it's offense that we talk about. I mean, that was one of the unique things of last night's storyline, I think, was that, you've got a situation where all of the emphasis was placed on the 4 goals in the first 16 minutes, but you've got Hope Solo pitching, 500 plus minutes of shutout soccer in there. And that is like story number 2.0 or 2.1 when you finally get a look at it.
To add just one, I didn't mean to
No,
cut you
you're
off,
good.
but just to add one more storyline.
Cut her off, that's okay. She
She can't talk about this. She has no.
But just to add, one more storyline to that, I feel like this whole World Cup was just a feel-good story for so many of the players on this team. Obviously, we win, and that's always a good thing. But players like Rampone, who 40 years old. She's the only player that was on the 1999 squad that won the World Cup. She's the only person still playing professional soccer from that squad. But she was able to get on the field last night. Shannon Box wasn't on that squad, but I think she's around 38. And has been on so many great teams who just never was able to get off the schneid there and win the World Cup. So. For players like that, and Wambach as well, it was great to see them finally get one.
Well, they were talking about the 99ers, and of course that's the last time they won in 1999. Now these are the 15ers.
Yeah.
So now we got a whole new group. By the way, let's toast with our sweet tea. By the way, let's toast the United States American team. Great victory for them.
Yes.
Great.
We are all patriotic.
That's kind of hard
All of
not
us
to
now.
be.
Yeah. Speak for yourself there.
Yeah, once
You were
again.
the one that was doubting the country prior to this. So, to completely randomly switch topics here, so you've got the NBA Summer Leagues going on right now. A lot of key storylines there for the more local team, the Charlotte Hornets, trying to develop some synergy there with new draft picks. This is one of those great times, Sam, in the NBA calendar where you get a chance to look at some of the incoming players with some folks that are still trying to carve out the roles a little bit. What's your take been on all
Well,
this?
in the last show we had, we were talking about Aaron Harrison, who was not drafted out of Kentucky, even though they got 6. He possibly could have been the 7th. The Hornets have picked him up on their summer roster and also added Ralston Turner, a young man from NC State. Both of them come in as 3-point shooters. I talked to someone in their office the other day, and they're very excited about both these players because that's an area that they need, certainly coming in with Kaminsky as a 3-point big guy. So you're starting to add another dimension and maybe freeing it up inside for Jefferson. But you're exactly right on the money. These guys recognize that playing in the summer league, you say, well, it's just a place to play. No, it's a place to shine. And I think that most all of the guys that are on that roster there, for the Hornets anyway, have really kind of accepted that. And you'll find that around the league. There are some, they bring down some veterans that have been injured and they let them play in the summer league. Those guys kind of schmuck it up a little bit. They don't do much. But the young guys say, hey, this is my big chance. And I'm quite excited. Patrick Ewing, by the way, is going to coach the summer team, and he's going to be on crutches.
Yeah.
He ripped his MCL the other day, and he'll have surgery after the summer. I talked to his agent, as a matter of fact, and he said, Patrick wouldn't miss coaching the summer league if you had to wheel him in a wheelchair. So he said he's going to be there, but I think it's going to be an exciting.
He wasn't playing soccer with Rory McIlroy.
No, he wasn't. That's right. He's taking up with the
On
same
the show.
situation. But I think it's going to be an exciting time. The summer league, everybody says, just kind of a throw-in. No, it's a good time for a lot of young kids.
Well, and Frank the Tank's got a lot to prove.
Yep.
That was a draft pick that I think a lot of true diehard Hornets fans, both of them, think that was a risky pick. But I think that shows, number one, the changing dynamic in that you need that big man in today's NBA to be a little bit more versatile. He brings the versatility, but then to your point, I thought it was interesting to hear P.J. Hairston talking about after the first couple of games they played, he's looking for him to come off screens now. He's developing a relationship with a guy that's going to be a huge focal point to what Charlotte does on an offensively anemic team.
Chris and I were talking before the show, and it's actually, Aldridge finally signs with the Spurs, probably the biggest of the free agents. It's the guys that didn't sign him, I think, are more important than who did sign him, I think, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, well, and the thing about it is if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, not only they got more privilege than anyone in the pursuit of LaMarcus Aldridge because LaMarcus Aldridge canceled his meeting with the Knicks to meet again with the Lakers, who botched their first meeting. and they still didn't come away with him. And LA and New York are the two of the biggest markets in basketball, and yet over and over again lately they have not been able to pull in free agents. And for LaMarcus Aldridge to go to a small market team, San Antonio, I mean, you say they're small market, they're very successful, and they rest on that and what they've done. But I mean, a huge loss again for the Lakers. I mean, and they missed on Greg Monroe. It's just it's sad to see, honestly, but I think Kobe has a lot to do with it. Kobe kind of has.
Do people want to play with Kobe anymore?
I don't think so. And I think what I read was LaMarcus Aldridge didn't like the way that when he sat down with the Lakers originally, Kobe Bryant kind of said, it was kind of overblown, but Kobe Bryant basically said, I played with Pau Gasol. He had a similar game to what you have. And I could see you fitting in kind of like that. And I don't think LaMarcus Aldridge was looking to come in there and be the number 2. He's looking to be 1B if Kobe's 1A.
Yeah.
And so I think that was bad.
Yeah, but is Kobe 1A? I mean,
not anymore. But in his head he is.
Some reality.
Yeah.
In his head he
That
is,
as well.
and he always will be. I mean, if he's playing 5 minutes a night, he'll still be the guy.
Aldridge said that the Lakers also talked a lot about what money he could make off the court
Yep.
in his endorsements by playing in Los Angeles.
Yep.
And he didn't want that. Being with the Spurs for 12 years, I know that organization. Popovich was an assistant before stepping up, and I know what he does, and you've seen what he's done.
Yep.
He talks team. I mean, it has nothing to do with what you do off the court. That's your own business. He talks a team, and that's what I think impressed Aldridge. And they got themselves quite a player. Duncan's going to play his 19th year now.
Potentially Manu Ginobili coming back,
Yep.
too. They're looking at bringing him back.
So I think that what a wise choice. If he likes the Riverwalk and Mexican food, he'll love San Antonio.
Is that just like retro night, or are those guys coming back for the whole? It sounds like an old timers game. Almost. But it also I think draws the NBA into you see I'll use the term fandoms kind of evolving some. It used to be a star power driven league where you had to have your Kobe in LA. You had to have Patrick Ewing in New York. Now you see these guys because of free agency, because I think also the franchises are becoming a little bit more pop one in, one out, that you don't necessarily have to have that star power feel like they've got to imprint to a major area anymore. You've got Aldridge to San Antonio. You mentioned that's not a huge market, but it is a situation where I think players feel like if they go to a healthy organization, they can find the things that they need to be successful. Even with Charlotte, I mean, here's another case of a team that is dying for someone to come in and say, this is my team. Who's going to be the first one that steps up and takes Michael Jordan's money and the star power of a major financial district within the country's pecking order and say, there's cash to be made off the floor here. I can come and get done what I need to do, start a foundation, get some endorsements, and be the winner in a city that's starved for a winner. I think that's a right spot for the right person to come in and say,
Travis, the question for you is that the Dallas Mavericks come up with Andre Jordan, the young man from the Clippers, and they sign him. Now you put him with Nowitzki at Dallas, and all of a sudden you've got a big man that can do some things inside and free up Nowitzki on the outside. I think that's a good pickup for Cuban and the Mavericks for sure. And also, what he signed for, $80 million over 4 years.
Yeah, well,
Speaking of pickups.
good for him for grabbing his $80 million. But I don't think DeAndre Jordan is going to have a terrible large impact there in Dallas. I mean, yes, he's going to rip down 15, 20 rebounds, and he's going to be a real force defensively.
But can he score?
Yeah, and exactly.
Yeah.
And I think of a lot of his points with the Clippers, came playing with Chris Paul. Lob City. The play is I'm going to beat you off the pick, and DeAndre roll to the basket, and I'll lob it up to you. So, without him playing with a playmaker like a Chris Paul, I'm not sure how much his offensive game is really going to further develop. Mm-hmm. But he'll probably still be an all-star down there in Dallas just because of his defensive presence and his ability to really clean up the boards.
No, definitely.
They were listing Phil Jackson of New York and also Doc Rivers of the Clippers as the two losers in the free agent, because we've already alluded to the fact Lakers lost their opportunity to get Aldridge on top of that and Monroe. And then, of course, Doc Rivers loses Jordan, their defensive stopper inside. And that whole club seems to be in disarray out there. Ashton, it's when you don't have a happy camper inside of your locker room, it makes for a long, long season when you got things not going well in your locker room to start with.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with kind of the fact that they are kind of the losers going in. But for me, it was actually the Pistons, who just ended up, they're retaining Reggie Jackson, but they're paying him $80 million for 5 years for a guy who's just not doing that well, and no one else wanted him. I mean, he was a restricted free agent, so it's not like they were fighting off a ton of people to begin with.
Right.
But I mean, they effectively bid themselves up and said, you know, hey, let me give you all this money, and let's just give you some more money because, oh yeah, I guess we've got it. Like, let's just keep throwing him something. But he's not that good anymore. I don't know. It's hard to talk about these guys who are, you know, losing people who they may have needed when I see people spending money on guys that they don't need and are just overpaying. With caps being what they are, they need to save their money for the guys that are important.
Seemed like a desperation move, I kind of think, because they lost Greg Monroe. When he made that choice, all of a sudden there's a huge extension for a player. So it seems like to me they need another guy to start pumping up and say, oh, this is the future. And I think that losing Greg Monroe opens up that door for Reggie Jackson to start being more the face of the franchise.
But isn't 80 million the new 10 million? And with the cap changes that are going to come down the road, that's only going to make this worse.
True, but it gave them the room to really pick up someone who, you know, could have been young and raw that they could have done something with, as opposed to sticking with the same guy and going.
Franchise health. Does somebody young and raw want to play in Detroit?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
David,
true.
one of the things, Marc Gasol, the young man from Memphis, it's good to see teams retaining their own free agents because it kind of builds fan loyalty, first of all, and I think that's as important as winning games sometimes on the floor, but you have to win to bring them in. So he's a good player. He's a guy that says, hey, I love the Grizzlies. I love what's happening in Memphis. I love Beale Street. Why should I go anywhere else? And quite obviously, he's staying put. I thought another interesting thing that came out is we're talking about the Knicks having all the problems. Carmelo Anthony has a no-trade clause in his contract. His agent now has come out and says, we may waive that. Because you know he may go in and say, I ain't playing for these guys anymore.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, well, when your biggest free agent acquisition is Aaron Aflalo, who's kind of been a six-man role player.
Good point.
And they were like, oh, well, he played with Carmelo Anthony in Denver, so this is a great pickup. Well, they didn't win in Denver either. You know, I mean, they were competitive, but they
There's
never
some
won a
guys on his
championship.
middle school basketball team that were
yeah,
dressing up
exactly.
played with Carmelo.
Yeah,
Jefferson
exactly.
High School.
It's become way bigger of a thing just to be able to say, I played with someone who was good at some
Well,
point
by
in
the same
time.
token, we were talking about not playing with Kobe. I mean, do people want to play with Carmelo? I think maybe that's another question that has to be answered.
I think it's not the same as Kobe, though. I think Kobe, there's more of an ego that you kind of have to deal with. With Carmelo, I think it's more of an, you know, can they play together well? Are they getting what they need to done? With Kobe, I think it's, you know, can me and his ego fit in the same room right now? So
They do have different, egos. I'll give you that. But I do think they both need the ball to play
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
You know, Bryant and Melo both need the ball a ton. So I don't know. I feel like it might be hard for Melo to get, you know, the equal to him and be, you know, have enough room on the floor.
yeah.
And to that note, he also is supposed to be playing the Kobe Bryant role in the triangle for Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
So the expectation, shots, that type of stuff is going to be the same for him.
Good point. Yep.
Yeah.
Last point on this topic, and we'll chug our iced tea on something different here. But were any of you surprised by Kevin Love staying in Cleveland? And does LeBron, on kind of a 1B to that question, does LeBron take a hit for what is mostly a procedural deal here and opting out of his deal only to get max money again from Cleveland and get a few more dollars in the war chest of someone who ultimately has more money than he'll ever
Show
be
me
able
the
to
money.
spend?
Yeah. We talked about a little bit about that last week about, you know, him staying as if he's just holding out for some more money. And I mean, it's sad to say that's kind of the nature of the business. You kind of can't even really hold it against them because everyone's doing it, you know, and it's kind of come down to, well, he's making a ton of money playing basketball. Why not make a little bit more?
And few guys have the leverage that he has.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
To be the best player in the game, there's few players. I mean, Aaron Aflalo is not doing this, or you know what I mean? Carmelo Anthony couldn't even do this, and LeBron's able to do it because not only money, I think he wanted personnel decision because to lock up in Cleveland again, he's not going to go through years where his number 2 guy is Anderson Varejao. He can't do it. And he's not going to, and so until he gets the major contract when the money jumps, right now he wanted to make sure that he could lock up the guys that he wanted. And truly he wanted Kevin Love to be on that team. I think it was kind of overblown in the media about how they didn't hit it off. Every player doesn't need to be your best friend. Tim Duncan is notorious that off the court, you know, everybody talks about Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. It's not like they're 3 best friends that go out to the bar every weekend. Tim Duncan's a very family man away from the game. And so Kevin Love kind of was doing the same thing, whereas LeBron tends to be more buddy-buddy. And so, I mean, if they can figure out that dynamic within the organization, they're not going to have any problems.
Hey, that Boston Big Three, back when they were winning all those titles,
Yeah.
they didn't like each other all that well. Trust me.
Don't have to
Sam,
like each
when
other.
you started in the NBA, did players recruit as much as they do on the professional level now?
I don't think so. At San Antonio was my first opportunity there, and then talking to other broadcasters and that type thing. I think everybody, they would get a friend, but I don't think it was a point of, hey, there's a good player, we need to go, talk to him when we're on the road with him. I don't think that was happening that much. I think there's a lot of camaraderie going on in certain ranks, and then there's also a certain amount of jealousy also going on. I don't know if I want that guy to come in and kind of steal my limelight. So there's kind of a yes and no to that answer. I don't know if that cleared it up, but I think there's probably a little bit more of that. We want this better player. Back then it was like, let's just do what we've got to do with our friends.
Speaking of limelight, Wimbledon going on, and certainly one of the premier sporting events of the summer. We're going to let you redeem yourself on the international stage and kick off this Wimbledon discussion. Who are you looking forward to not doing well so we can go ahead and pencil them into the finals?
Okay. Not doing well. That's tough. I focus more on the people I like, but I'm a big Sharapova fan. I have been for a very long time, since she beat Serena way back in, I don't even know what year that was, the first year she came out. Way back when. To you guys, it was, it doesn't feel as long, I'm sure. But
Oh, dang. Dishing it right back out. That's saving face on her end.
yeah, I got to try something.
Who strikes today?
No, but I really like Sharapova, and I mean, she's going up against American, Coco, what is her last name? It starts with a W.
Beware.
Yeah, it starts with a W, and I can't pronounce it for the life of me.
You're out on the plank by yourself. So.
I know I am. No, but I mean, the Serena and Venus game was good, and I think it showed a lot about, the fact that they're sisters and they're playing together. And I'm excited to see what Serena specifically now, but both of them do only because they're running out of time, I think. I mean, Serena's 33, Venus is 35. They've only got a few years left on it, so I think that it's really interesting to see how they're showing everyone, we may be a little bit older, but we're still, kicking butt and being better than everyone else for the most part. So I'm hoping to see Serena really pull it out, but I'm liking watching Sharapova show that she really is kind of the master on grass. I mean, she's said before that she doesn't like clay, she doesn't get the footing that she wants, and I think it's really great to see her come back with the game that she was known for several years ago and hasn't been playing as strong for a while. So I think it's really cool to see her. So I'm kind of hoping that we get some more good games out of both of them, and I mean, honestly, to me, kind of everyone else is their opponents.
Yeah, Serena, you mentioned is 33.
Mm-hmm.
I think it bodes the question. At 33, she wins her 20th, I think it was 20th
Mm-hmm.
Grand Slam tournament when she won the French Open. Are we seeing enough young tennis players coming up to kind of, because in golf, that's what's happening now, is you're starting to see the young guys, everybody's got a chance to win on the PGA Tour. How about in women's tennis, men's tennis? Are we seeing enough young guys and ladies coming up to make a difference?
It kind of seems like it's been the same names for a long time. I mean, it's Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and then on the women's side, you're talking about Serena Williams, Venus Williams. There hasn't been that next group that's stepped up yet. And I mean, and with Serena being as dominant as she is, I mean, even though she hasn't completed a Grand Slam, she's done how many Serena Slams, as they call them, where she wins like the last two and then the first major of the next season or whatever. And that type of dominant athlete sometimes suppresses those lower names, because unless she gets knocked off early, a lot of times these people who may be budding stars, they're just not ready yet.
Is it a star power issue, or is it simply kids aren't playing the country club sports as much, and there's not an opportunity to imprint to the stars of today because you're not picking up the racket, you're not picking up the golf club as much
No, that's
as maybe
definitely
kids
true.
were earlier?
Yeah, no, it's definitely true, especially because I think that, in years past, it was kind of, the kids from more the inner city areas, the, non-country club areas were going into the basketball and the football and, maybe the soccer. And, the kids from more affluent areas were going into tennis, golf, the sports you pay for to play. And now I think that, kids from all walks of life are kind of now saying, well, I could play golf and, work really hard and maybe get some recognition for it, or I could go play football and be decent and be a star. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, as a little kid or as a, 15, 14-year-old kid, even in high school, what are you going to choose? You're going to take the sport that, you've got a chance at really being recognized in, as opposed to, do I have a chance at being one of the greats in tennis or the greats in golf, when, they want to be a household name in something that there's going to be a household name in.
The travesty of all of professional sports is that this group right here is the one that make it on that level. And you know that, David. You've seen great football players come through App State and all of the leagues that you've played in, and you thought they were sensational players, didn't even get a cup of coffee somewhere. It's really, it's that little tiny little pot that I guess it's something, it's a dream, it's something to hook your hat on and something to strive for. I don't begrudge that, but they got to be realistic somewhere along the way too.
And in individual sports, it's hard to be the top of the top, because I think in team games, I mean, you can rest on your team a little bit. I mean, you have the athletes like Michael Jordan who are just transcendental athletes, but good players end up being remembered as better because of the team that they're surrounded with. And in individual sports, you don't have that leeway. It's on you to be that
Or
person.
you don't have the ratings pull.
That too.
ESPN's making more hay off Tiger Woods being bad than they are about promoting anybody that's good.
So awful.
And that's a byproduct of the business. But I mean, you can attest to the fact that if it sells, it's what's on top, and that's
Well, the ratings yesterday and the Greenbrier Open, Tiger has his first non-bogey round since 2013. And that was the headline. It wasn't that Danny Lee won a playoff to win the tournament. It's that Tiger had a bogey-free round for the first time in over 2 years. So, he's big for the world of golf. A lot of us.
Danny Lee.
To Danny Lee.
All right, well, that's about it. The last call here at Sports Bar. We'll see you again next week. I'm David Jackson.
And I'm Sam Smith. Have yourself a great week. So long, everybody.